Good evening, Aksiva v'chasima tova to each and every one of those of you who are listening, you and your families and your communities. I want to open this shir, and I'm saying this shir Sunday night. We began last night's slichas, and I'm going to be speaking about Rosh Hashana and about Hazinu, which is this upcoming Shabbos, the day after Rosh Hashanah, the parsha that is laid in Shul. And then after Rosh Hashanah, B'ezras Hashem, and Shabbos Shuvah, I will then record B'ezras Hashem for next week about Aseres Yemei Tshuva and Yom Kippur. But I want to open with the fact that the Shulchan Aruch says that a Baal Nefesh, even if he eats Pas Akum a whole year, which is mutter, but during the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, he should be Mahader and eat Pas Yisrael. What does this halacha basically say? We know that if a goy produces bread and he has a mashgiach and it's 100% kosher, we're allowed to eat it. It doesn't have to have the requirement of being baked or the pilot being lit by a Jew. But it's called pasakum. It's bread that's produced by a goy, and it's mutter. You're allowed to eat it. However, the Shulchan Aruch says that when it comes to Rosh Hashanah and the days after until Yom Kippur, a Baal Nefesh should try to put forth the effort to eat only Pas Yisrael, that which a Jew lit the pilot, or it's completely an operation that's only with Yidden. That's what he should do. Now the Meforshim struggle a little because Memonavshach, if the Pas Akum is 100% mutter and kosher, so why during Aseres Yemei Tshuva does he have to push it up a notch to make it Pas Yisrael and only eat Pas Yisrael? The other is 100% mutter. It's not like the person is drinking, let's say, cholav akum. That it says that when a woman is expecting, she should be mahader and drink only cholav Yisrael. And even though Reb Moshe held, and I spoke to Reb David Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, face to face with him about this issue, but he held and said his father, Reb Moshe, Zechrono Livracha, held that you were allowed to, once you knew that all the ingredients and what was going on in America with the milk, you were allowed to drink it. But it had nothing to do with Kabbalah. This was pure halacha. And we know that, let's say, Cholav Yisrael makes a very big difference in the formation of the ruchnius of the child. And that's why many Mekubalim said that when a woman is expecting and she is developing within her body the actual physical body of the baby, she is at the same time developing the ruchnius level, the spiritual level. And since, according to everyone, that Cholav Yisrael is definitely a notch higher, certainly al pi Kabbalah, and that it affects the ruchnius, that she should be careful. But what we're talking about is Pas Yisrael and Pas Akum. And no one holds that you're not allowed to eat Pas Akum, a goyish bread. So what does the Shulchan Aruch mean that when it comes to Aseres Yemei Tshuva, that we should rank it up a notch and it calls the person a Bal Nefesh. Now, Rashi in Masechtas Nida and Daf Nun Zayin defines what a Bal Nefesh is. And Rashi there says that Hayore is Devar Hashem, that if somebody wants to be extra careful in doing exactly what he has to do in terms of the mitzvahs and everything, that he doesn't just do it, but he stops to think, is there a better way to do it? Is there a better way to be mahader? That is how Rashi teaches a Bal Nefesh. But others teach it differently. But whatever explanation you go by, they all say that it is a step up, not in halacha, because the other is mutter. It's not a question of it's only half mutter or the, but they agree that there's a dimension that kicks in when a person wants to go a step further of being careful, and that produces in him what's called a Bal Nefesh, and that he has an extra level of Yiras Shamayim that he wants to be careful to make HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy with what he's doing and with what he's eating. So that's how it is translated, and it comes. But from this discussion, we see that the idea of, and it's not hypocritical, well, 2 weeks ago you were eating pasakum, so now what are you, a hypocrite, and now it's not good enough for you? But the answer is that a Bal Nefesh who will go into the realm of wanting to be extra careful and with extra scrutiny in terms of what he does will improve and move up that notch, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch means. Now, we know that on Rosh Hashanah, we have in Musaf, and as I think I mentioned to you, I give a few shiurim each week, so I'm not sure sometimes if I mentioned something or I didn't. If I did mention it, please forgive me, but it's Divrei Torah, and there's nothing wrong with going over something. And I said in one of my shiurim that we have 9 brachas in the Musaf of Shemona Esrei on Rosh Hashanah, which means we have Malchias, Zechronos, and Shofros. Now, a normal Shabbos Shemona Esrei is 7 brachas, the 3 in the beginning, the 3 at the end, and then we have Mekadesh HaShabbos. But on Rosh Hashanah, because Chana said HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name 9 times, when she was in the Bais HaMikdash begging for a child that she was promising to give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he would stay his whole life in the Bais HaMikdash and be of service and do whatever he had to do. And that child was Shmuel. And he was of service. He was a shofet of the 15 shoftim. He was the 15th and the final one. And he was a navi in addition to that. But because the way she davened, it went to the source, mamish to the kisei hakavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it achieved, it clicked, and she had the baby. Now, and because she invoked 9 times the name of Hashem, we say 9 brachos in Shemona Esrei of Musaf on Rosh Hashanah. And those 9 include the 3 which are Malchios, that we proclaim the kingdom, and that is the theme of Rosh Hashanah, and then the Zichronos, and the 3rd being the Shofros, and to each category we say 10, we marshal 10 psukim to bring out the idea of the centrality of what we're discussing. That means we're talking about Malchios. So there's a pasuk, Ki Hashem hamlucha Moshe vaga. Psukim are brought that reflect the centrality and the theme of that paragraph. Let's say Malchias, and then Zichronos, and then Shofros. On Yom Kippur, we do not say that. The exception being Yovel. The year of Yovel, they daven Shemona Esrei of Musaf on Yom Kippur with Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofros. Now, the Gemara asks in Rosh Hashanah, how do you know, from where did you learn that you say Malchios? This whole business of, and we quietly, those who daven in the Sfard Shul, they have Tekiah Shofar in the quiet Shemona Esrei. Those who daven in an Ashkenaz Shul, there are no Tekiyas during the quiet Shemona Esrei, only in the loud Shemona Esrei, and of course before and then after by the Kaddish. But the Gemara asks that question, from where do you know and learn out that you have to say Malchios? And the Gemara answers and says that it says in Parshas Emor, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, and then right after that pasuk that ends, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, Vayedaber Hashem El Moshe Lemor, Uvachodesh HaShavi'i, which is Rosh Hashanah, because the first day of the 7th month, the first 2 days is Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara learns that since we just got done saying the words Ani Hashem Elokeichem, which is the proclamation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's majesty and royalty, so therefore right after that it mentions the date, the 7th month, the first day, that's Rosh Hashanah. So Malchias is together, the juxtaposition that it's one right after the other and it's connected, that we say Malchios. Now the truth is, it's a little bit of a far-fetch, what the Gemara is saying, because just because it says Ani Hashem Elokeichem, it says Ani Hashem Elokeichem in 5 different places. Okay, B'chodesh HaShvi, that means Rosh Hashanah. But the Meforshim explain, and it's an eye-opener, in Emor, you will find a discussion about Pesach, about Shavuos, about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. But stuck in between all of these few psukim about Shavuos and about Pesach, all of that, it talks about Leket, Shikha, and Peah. That when a person owns a piece of land, there are certain halachas that he has to give tzedakah. In other words, it's not really, it says it's even higher than tzedakah. Now, I'm always talking to you about tzedakah and how big it is, and it's mevi geula, and it's tatzil mimaves, which doesn't say that lashon about saving lives. When you give tzedakah, it doesn't say it by Shabbos, it doesn't say it by Tefillin, it doesn't say it by Kashrus, it doesn't say, but by tzedakah it does say. But there's a darga even higher, and that explains the Meforshim Maral and many, that the difference between Leket, Shikha, and Peah is that it's not that you are giving, it's higher. Your giving is the base, but it's the Rabbanu Shalom, so it's not even yours. When a person takes out $1 and gives tzedakah, that's his, and whether it's from his meiser or it's just he's doing it because he wants to give extra tzedakah, but it's his and he's giving of his. But say the Meforshim, but by Leket, Shikha, and Peah, it's not even his choice. It's not like he's giving, it belongs to the Rabbanu Shalom. And it has to be given straight. And that's why the Gemara says on Leket, Shikha, and Peah, that someone who keeps it properly, that as much as they have to keep the corner of the field or what they leave over, and to just leave it there, let people pick it up, and all of that, if a person does it properly, it's ke'ilu he was makriv karbonos in the Bais Hamikdash. And that's why it's smack in the middle of a discussion of Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because what are those Yomim Tovim about? That we brought karbanos. You brought the korban Pesach for Pesach. You brought the Shtei Alechem and the other type of karbanos, and the Yom Tov karbanos, the Chagiga and the Shalmei Simcha, and we did that every Yom Tov. So that Leket Shechem Pei was put in the middle of the discussion of the Yomim Tovim, because what the Yom Tov produces and the results of the Birkas Moyadecha of Yom Tov, what it brings to Klal Yisrael, the Leket Shechem Pei equally brought to Klal Yisrael such heavenly bracha and a shefa rav. That is why it was put in the Torah right smack in the middle of the discussion of all of the Yomim Tovim. And that is why the drasha of the Gemara, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, and then Rosh Hashanah is perfectly in order. Because what Rosh Hashanah achieves through Tekiyah Shofar and through the Karbanos Hayom of what they did in the Beis HaMikdash was just like what was accomplished by Leket Shechem Pei. And the conclusion is Ani Hashem Elokeichem, which is Malchus, I am HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's the reason that Leket Shechem Pei are so great and so high and so lofty, and that's why we say Malchios on Rosh Hashanah specifically, every single Rosh Hashanah and each day of Rosh Hashanah. Now, we know that we constantly say from Rosh Hashanah, even beginning with Slichas that we said last night, Slichas, and as I told you, Slichas, the Kadmonim, the Mekubalim said it's even higher than Shemona Esrei because it's got replete Hashem, Hashem, and that's the Olam HaKeser, which is higher than Shemona Esrei. But we should all remember what I told you a few weeks ago, that the Balatanya says that there's a brand new mazel and bracha, an or that comes down each and every year. And that's why a person should never give up on anything that he needs in his bakasha and in his request in the upcoming year, even if for 20 years he didn't have a child or he didn't have parnasoda, but that year it could click. So the davening of each and every Rosh Hashanah has to be with such fervent, beautiful kavanah, because this could be the year that everything you wanted and waited for will end up happening. Now, I want to say to you something that in these shiurim I never referred to this, but I want to tell you that last night I was on the radio. You know, from time to time they interview me on Zev Brenner and some other places, and he put forth a question that came in on his people submit questions through not texting. What is that called? Anyway, he got in a few questions that he should ask me. What do I think? And you'll see why I'm saying this to you. I'm not deviating from Rosh Hashanah. That what do I think? How do I think Klal Yisrael should celebrate or moan and groan what happened last year, Simchas Torah? in Eretz Yisrael. You know that October 7th, there was a shechita of 1,200 innocent Kedoshim of Klal Yisrael. And should they make speeches to remember the Kedoshim? Should they do some new takana? Because don't forget, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah is the same thing. In Eretz Yisrael, it's the same day. So I answered him that I think that they should double and triple the level of simcha, because I've mentioned to you that tzaddikim, when they wanted to give a Yeshua very often, they would tell the couple or the person who came for a tzara to get a bracha or to solve the problem, they would ask them, how was your simcha last year, Sukkot? Because it's a problem solver. When a person is besimcha, that is what solves a problem for a yid. And many tzaddikim, it was a different time, it was not even Sukkot, but they used to ask that question. And they used to direct them to envelop themselves in an atmosphere, a cloak of simcha above and beyond. Now, if you think about it for just a moment, we spoke last week about how should a yid on Rosh Hashana act. Because on one hand it's a Yom Hadin, on the other hand it's Yom Tiv. Yom Tiv, you're supposed to have a shleimus of simcha. It doesn't mean like Simchas Torah or like Sukkos, because we don't even say it in Yalav. We say B'yom HaZikaron Hazeh, or on Pesach we say Zman Cheruseinu, but on Sukkos we say Zman Simchaseinu, because it is the definitive shoirish of Simcha. And to protect Klal Yisrael from never again having what happened this past Simchas Torah, which obviously was part of the master plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in bringing the Geula Shlema. We know that there are things that have to be accomplished before the Geula Shlema will happen. And we're ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had some cheshbon. I mean, there were people thrown into the fire, live people, live babies in the fire. I mean, this was... It was a tragedy beyond tragedy. There are no words for it. But that is how I felt, that if we want an antidote and something which will assure us that there won't be another such tragedy, is to bring ourselves to the level of simcha. Now, to it, I want to attach a short story, and this is a true story that happened in Williamsburg around 60 years ago. And there was a man in Green's coffee shop, and those of you who know Williamsburg, you know where Green's is. And he went to have a coffee. And he saw in the next table, across from his table, when he was sitting there sipping on the coffee, he saw a boy that was like 22, 24 years old. And he was also drinking a coffee, but he was crying. So the man asked him across his table to his table, is there something I can do for you? I see that you're crying, like there must be some problem. He didn't know what the boy was going to say, but the boy said, no, unfortunately, my problem, there's nothing that you can do. And the man rolled up his sleeve and showed him the numbers of Auschwitz. And he said, you know, I am a simple guy. I'm not a Rebbe, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not... but I can tell you that there were many miracles that happened from people who suffered in Auschwitz or in the concentration camp. And you never know how things will work out. So tell me what your problem is, and let's see if I have a suggestion for you. So the boy told him, he said, and this boy was not from. And the boy said that I and two of my friends were dealing in drugs. And it wasn't like today that it's a Hefkerwelt and the FBI caught us, and one of the three ran off to Europe or to Eretz Yisrael. He's not around. The other guy admitted and cooperated, and I was caught, and I'm the one that's going to really be the carbon. So, and this is a story with drugs, so what could you do? What could you suggest? The boy said to the man. So he said, this is not something that a good lawyer can solve for you. This is something you need a big tzaddik. And the boy said, well, I'm not even from, and I don't know what they could do. What are they going to do? Give me a blessing? He said, my suggestion, and I urge you to go to a tzaddik. And at that time, the old Skolyer Rebbe, Zecher Tzaddik V'Kadosh Livrocha, who I had the schus to daven with him when he moved to Borough Park, and he asked me to be the Rosh HaKohol of his shul. Anyway, this man took this boy to the old Skolyer Rebbe, Zecher Tzaddik V'Kadosh Livrocha, and he came in and told the Rebbe what the problem was. This boy, by the way, knew Yiddish. He wasn't a Shomer Shabbos, and he didn't put on tefillin, but he knew Yiddish because he grew up in Williamsburg. And he may have gone to a yeshiva as a little boy. I don't know, but I'm adding that as my own statement. That's not a fact in this story. But he spoke to the Skolyer Rebbe in Yiddish. And the Skolyer Rebbe said to him, I want you to leave my room confident, because I am telling you, no bad is going to come out from this story. And if your lawyer is late in coming to the court case on the day of the trial, do not be concerned. And with that, the Rebbe finished his words and his comment to this boy. Now they walked out, and this Yid said to him, you should be dancing. The way the Rebbe spoke to you and told you to be confident, he doesn't just say things. He's a very holy. Be confident as much as you can. And the boy said, confident, this is still hanging over me, but okay, I'm going to make an effort. He seems to be very holy. So the day of the trial came, and the boy came to the courtroom. And this is a true story. I heard it from Zekanim that davened in Skolyer, were in Skolyer in those days, that all knew the boy subsequently. And he looked around, and it's 9:30, and the lawyer had to be there, and the lawyer is not here. No lawyer. But he remembered the words of the Rebbe, don't be concerned. But the judge said, listen, we're not going to play around. If the lawyer's not here in 5 minutes, we're starting the trial. and we have a pool of free lawyers who are here for someone who doesn't have a lawyer or needs a lawyer, and we'll take one of that pool. And the lawyer did not show up, so they yanked a young boy who was his first day. He didn't even know clearly what the case was about. But the judge gave him a half an hour to read some of the papers, and they began the trial. And this young boy, started saying this and that, and the boy who was on trial, his heart sank. He's thinking, what is this kid saying? How will they ever, he's going to end up 25 years in jail. There's no defense, he said. But then the prosecutor got up and began his case. And then again, the young lawyer spoke, and then again the prosecutor. And the judge stopped him in the middle of his statement and said, listen, this seems to me to be a case of nonsense, and I am dismissing the entire case. And the courtroom came out in a, what? The kid was found with so much dope that you go to jail for 25, 30 years. But that's what ended up happening. So when he came out into the corridor, this young lawyer, the boy who was on trial hugged him and kissed him and said, I don't know what you said, but obviously the judge took and accepted your words. So, but how did you do it? So the young boy says, today was my first day as a lawyer in a courtroom, but the judge is my grandfather. And the judge didn't want his grandsons to lose his first case. A miracle, a nes min hashamayim. So why am I saying this story to you? Because when we come into shul on Rosh Hashana, the halacha is that a melech shemochel al kavodo ein kavodo mochel. That if somebody offends the king, and the king says, I moichel him, ein kavodo mochel. He is not allowed to discard, disrespect to the royalty of the position of king, and the person is held liable for whatever he did. But we also have another rule of bonim atem laHashem Elokechem. We're not just servants and subjects of the king, the melech malchei hamlochem, but we are his children. And like the grandfather dealt with the grandson, which obviously it was a very good case against this boy, but he changed the whole dynamics of what was going on because it was his grandson. So when we come in and say Avinu Malkeinu, we are Avinu Malkeinu. We are his children. Avinu. We are not less than that grandson of this grandfather who was the judge. So when we say Avinu, but we have to say it with a simcha and with a confidence. And that's the pshat on Rosh Hashanah, that it's a simcha because it's Yom Tiv, because we have an underlying fact of confidence in dealing with the Yom Hadin. And that's why we can properly have the simcha at the Suda, and we can, on the other hand, want to respectfully speak to our Father and daven with the sincerity and the full heart and ask and want what we need for the upcoming year. You know that it says that goodness is forever, and evil ends with tshuva. So we have golden opportunities when it comes Rosh Hashanah. And yes, it's the Yom Hadin, but we're talking to our Father. and the set of circumstances change a lot because it's our Father, Avinu. The fact it's Malkeinu, that's why we serve him the way we serve him. And we don't rely on his just being a father, because children would be sometimes with their own father, lazy but it is Avinu. And before Malkeinu, we say Avinu. And that is the cementing factor of every Yid come Rosh Hashanah, that we have the hope and we have the dynamics to be able to make it the most outstanding, wonderful year. Haba Oleinu L'Toiva. Now I'm taking the next minutes, which is like another 20 minutes or whatever it is, to talk about Shabbos Shuvah. First of all, there are 7 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That means when we say Aseres Yemei Shuvah, the first 2 days is Rosh Hashanah, and the 10th day is Yom Kippur. But in between, there's 7 days. And the Sfarim say, because it gives us an opportunity to do tshuva for all. For instance, we have a Sunday in it, because there's 7 days. So we have a Sunday, we have a Monday. The Sunday is a kapara for all the past Sundays of the year. The Monday is for the Monday, the Tuesdays are for all the Tuesdays. And the Shabbos, which is Shabbos Shuvah, is a kapara for all of the Shabbosos that we slipped, and that our Suda Shabbos, we're busy talking about Trump, we're busy talking about the stock market, things which have no place at a Shabbos table. So on Shabbos Shuvah, we are able to come back and take Shabbos and make sure that every minute of Shabbos, the Divrei Torah, the Macholim, that it's Oneg Shabbos, that you're enjoying the foods because you're supposed to have Oneg Shabbos. And what about the Shabbosos that wasn't so great? And you were busy talking 20% of the day about local whatever, nonsense. We have the opportunity with Shabbos Shuvah to bring back all of that, because when we do a mitzvah, we strengthen the Shechina that's in Golus. And that's why Kadmonim Tait Shabbos Shuvah, that there's Shoiv, we bring back Hey, the Hey at the end of the word Shuvah, because the Hey Achroina of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Shechina, and we're able to bring that back in its fullest glory and flourish on Shabbos Shuvah. Now, we know that in the Pasuk, in Ha'azinu, which is this coming Shabbos, this day after Rosh Hashanah, is Parshas Ha'azinu. There's a Pasuk, Zachor Yemos Olam, that every Yid should remember the days of history. And Rav Shlomo Rottenberg, Zichrono Livracha, who was the master historian, wrote 10 Svarim on it, and Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzedek Livracha, asked him to teach and to write, because he knew kosher history. There were a lot of Jewish history books, but the people who wrote them were not even Shomer Shabbos. But Rav Rottenberg was a wonderful Yid, an Erlich Yid, a Koyen, and he wrote the Svarim, and he always opened his statements with this mitzvah aseh d'oraisa to learn history. Parshas Ha'azinu, Zachor Yemos Olam Binu Shenos Dor V'Dor. Think back into the generations, because somebody who, and one of the, I think maybe one of the Goyim said, Lahavdol, that somebody who doesn't take heed of history is bound to repeat it, because if you learn and you look back and you think into it, you realize there were a lot of mistakes that were made. And if you learn from a mistake, then you go on to improve, and you don't have a repetition of that mistake. But if you don't learn history and you don't learn from the issues that came up, then you are in a position of repeating it. So that is what the pasuk says, and Rav Elchanan Wasserman Zecher Tzaddik v'Kadosh Levracha HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be Yimkom Damo. He was killed by the Nazis. He used to say on these psukim here that everything that happens in the world from day one till Mashiach comes is a design for what Klal Yisrael needs or needs to happen. And we don't understand it all the time. But in the master plan of the world, that Zachor Yemos Olam is telling us to learn from history, because at least as human beings we will do our best to enrich our lives and uplift our activity of life in a way that we could improve and enrich the days of our life by the Zachor Yemos Olam. And that's why he said, the pasuk continues, B'hanchel goyim, B'hanchel el yon goyim, Ba'afrido b'nei Adam, Yatsev gevulos amim lemispar b'nei Yisrael, that everything that happens in the war in Europe, that if this country grabbed a piece of that country, and there was a cheshbon with the kvarim, a cheshbon with the people living there, it was a cheshbon with everything surrounding as the focal point Klal Yisrael. So said Rav Elchanan Wasserman Zechuso Yogein Aleinu. Now, we know that at the end of the pasuk, it says a pasuk, Ani Hu, that it's referring, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that whether you understand, that's the first Ani. Something happens and it makes sense that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to our human minds, so we understand why it happened. But also Ani Hu, that I am the same Rabbana Shalom on the things you don't understand, and that's called Hu. In other words, Hu is like an issue that we don't see clearly why it's happening and what the results will be. But that's why it says twice the word Ani. Ani for the things that are clear. Rav Gedalia Shor Zecher Tzaddik Levracha said, for all the clear-cut things that happen in our lives and in the world, but Ani Hu, but I am also the same HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the things that are like third person that we don't understand. And that when we come to our full emunah, to bring out the best in our emunah by learning Choivas Halavavos or Mesilas Yesharim every single day, it brings out that aspect and opens the avenue to make available the vehicle of emunah in our lives, and that it seeps into the essence of who we are and how we think. That it trains us to think, and if you train yourself to think, it's very hard to fall into melancholy, because every person has a stack of issues that based on those issues, they could be in bed all day moping or crying or whatever, because we do have trouble in life and we do have disappointments. But if a person is able to immerse himself in the sea, in the ocean of emunah and bitachon, then he rides through with a smile. Then he is able to rise above and beyond the occasion and look at it with a different perspective completely. Now, the beginning of Hazinu has a pasuk, Hishem Hashem Ekra, Havu Godel Leilokenu. And it's a Kabbalah vort, but it's important along the lines of what I just said to you about the good and bad, and that really, with proper emunah, we can survive what looks to us like the bad. And that is that the pasuk says, because we know that Yud Kei Vav Kei is a name of Hashem of Chesed, but Elokim or Elokeinu are din. So the pasuk says, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, that when I proclaim in every instance of life, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that everything is a midas hachesed, and that everything that we encounter is in some way good for us in the totality of our mission of life and our ruchnias, then havu godel, if you think like that. See, the word godel, if you look at Vayavarach David that we say every day, it says, L'cha Hashem hagedula v'hagevura v'hateferes v'hanetzach v'hahod. Now there it says gedula. What does gedula mean? And it means chesed. And it fits right in, because we know in the spheres that there's chesed, gevura, teferes. So over here we're saying gedula, gevura and teferes and netzach and hod. But the first word we're saying in that phrase is gedula, and that means chesed. So Taich the Skolya Rebbe Zechron Levracha, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, that when we immerse ourselves into the world of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is Kula Chesed, and we train ourselves to move along in life day by day with all the trials and tribulations that life brings with it, then if we can train ourselves like that, Havu Godel, we bring Gedula, Chesed, Leilokenu, to the Midas Hadin that we are encountering, or that Klal Yisrael encounters. Now, what I just got done saying about Emunah and Bitachon and bringing Chesed with Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's sometimes easier said than done. When there's tragedy, we're human. And we react with our human emotion. But just like the person who becomes a craftsman of diamond cutting, he doesn't walk in the first day and just take a valuable diamond and cut it and waste half of the diamond. He is taught how to preserve the value of the diamond even as he cuts it, and how to do it. And that's what the Chazal say. Yes, we're born with our instincts, and we have disappointments, and we're so angry, we're so upset, we're so sad, we're so depressed. But we have to train ourselves like the diamond cutters to fit into the realm of Emunah, to fit into understanding through the Sfarim, the Ramchal. You know that the Balatanya even discusses the Choivos Halavavos. This wasn't some modern day rabbi that put together a sermonic piece of work that people should learn Musar. This was the Choivos Halavavos, Kodesh Kadoshim, Amalach Hashem Tzavokos, and a Bal Ruach HaKodesh, and above and beyond. I mean, Mamish, the tzaddikim lived by his words. And he brought the essence of how to live like a Yid with the full emunah, and to be able to bring it out to full flourish. I want to wish each and every one of you aksiva v'chasima tova, and that you should go into Tekiyah Shofar with such kavana that you should pull it down, and it should effectively produce the grenade effect against all the Mekatrigim and all the Averis and all the stand-ups against Klal Yisrael. And then we can usher in a beautiful, dynamic year of chesed and rachamim, and that this year will be the year, the Shnas Geula v'Yeshua.